I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're delighted to introduce you to a very talented author. Her name is Cindy Barry Strobel, and she has written a book called What Are Your Treasures? My Miraculous Journey Through Heaven. What I discovered about how God works will revolutionize your life. It's a book that promises to captivate you with a remarkable journey through heaven and a profound exploration of faith, offering insights that could transform your perspective on life and spirituality. We're delighted to have this talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank our team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like her by subscribing to our channel. Cindy, thanks so much for being our guest today on Spotlight.
Thank you. Thank you. And Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah.
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. It's a wonderful time of the year, as I think the song goes, or it's the most wonderful time of the year. That's for
Exactly.
sure. And your book is one of the most wonderful books I've read in quite a while. What inspired you to write What Are Your Treasures?
I was in a Bible study, and the host asked me if I'd ever written down my experience, and I told him no, that I hadn't. And he was like, "What do you mean you haven't written this down? This is a remarkable experience." And I said, during my experience, I had not I did not know how to write. I couldn't write anymore. I had to relearn how to write, and I certainly couldn't type very well, but I could type. And he suggested that I try typing it out on a computer, and I said, "Okay, I'll give it a try," and that's how it came about.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, that was your inspiration to physically write it, but what about the content? Tell us about that.
I was experiencing OBE, which is an out of body experience when I was 19 years old. I had through carbon monoxide poisoning, which put me into uh, where I got excuse me. It was a carbon monoxide experience where I had I died in my
Mm.
car. It was a tragic car accident, and a fireman had found me. He did CPR, and I went to a hospital, which was a county hospital at the time, and it was in the 70s. And at that time, there was no cell phones, none of that was
Mm.
available or anything like that. And since it was the 70s, there was a lot of drug activity and things like that going on. And they since he was a firefighter, he told the ambulance driver who picked me up to be sure and let the attendants know that he thought that it was not drug. I was not on drugs because my eyes were pinpointed when he found me, and I
Mhm.
was already black and blue, and he was concerned that they would treat me as a drug addict. And
Mm.
at that time in Texas, I don't know if they did that everywhere else, but they kind of shunned the drug addicts and just kind of put them off the side because there's so many of them, and you
Right.
had to wait your line, turn in line. Well, as the story went, I got in there, and the attendant got off the shift, so he did not tell the attenders who came up to the doctors who came to see me and investigate on me, didn't tell them that what my rescuer, the fireman, had told. And so they just thought I was a drug addict. So I was just laying there on the side for no telling how long until my sister was notified. And then she uh, quickly came in and told them that I was not a drug addict.
Mm. Amazing, amazing. But when you were dead or
Mm-hmm.
gone,
Yes,
that's when you had your out of body experience. Can you
yes.
describe that for us?
Most people go through a tunnel, which I had gone through a tunnel, and I also went in through a. I'm kind of get just seasick or nervous when I'm on like things that go really fast, and the
Hmm.
tunnel. I was going through the tunnel super fast, and I could see the slide at the very very end. But at the same time I was in the tunnel, I could hear a humming noise, and it sounded like thousands of angels humming to me. And I didn't realize at the time that I was dying. You don't. I didn't realize that I was dying. I just thought I was just dreaming or something. But anyway, felt like I was in this tunnel, and I kept wanting to get to the end of the tunnel, and I kept asking, please get me to the end of the tunnel. I feel like I'm getting sick. And then the next thing I heard was a voice asking me, "What's your favorite color?" And I went, "That's odd. What's this voice asking me, what's your favorite color? What's that going to do for me?" But I immediately said, blue, which was my favorite color, and all this blue color started showing up around me, and it calmed me down. And then after I got calmed down, the light, the tunnel, I was still going through the tunnel. Then it started slowing down. It started slowing down more and more, and I could hear the angel the stuff from the angels clearer and clearer, and it sounded more like I was listening to an ocean show. How you have that like that vibrating noise when you put a shell to your ear.
Hmm.
And as I was going through all of that, I kept wanting to hurry up and get to the end of the tunnel. And as I finally did get to the end of the tunnel, I was just kind of all of a sudden popped right through it, and I was sitting there just as the beginning of popping through it. I could see my life going through me, and like everything I'd seen and heard and witnessed all my life was being played like a recording.
Wow.
And then I finally went through the tunnel, and that's when I saw heaven, what I call
Mhm.
heaven. The
Amazing.
brightness of light, and just everything around you was, the colors were just so amazingly bright and brilliant, and it was a lot like Earth, but it was much more beautiful.
Amazing. It's also amazing that other people who've had out of body experiences have had similar experiences. So
Yes, yes,
it's unique for you, sure, but it's kind of faith affirming that other people have gone through it too. It reaffirms a faith of the fact that there is a heaven, which is
yes.
wonderful. Now, did there come a time where you had a choice whether to stay or come back?
Yes, actually, when after I'd gone through the tunnel and saw heaven, I was kind of like, be bobbing around through heaven, seeing everything that I could see, and because I was on this like golden path, and I saw, first thing I saw was horses, field of horses, beautiful horses, and I kept going through, and I saw this one beautiful white horse. It was all by itself, and I like to ride horses and things, and so I was thinking, oh, I just can't wait to get on this horse because the
Mm.
horses were just so magnificently beautiful. And so anyway, I just started going on, following down through this path to see where it led me. And as I was going through, I kept seeing all different things. I went through one part which was a jungle, and I heard a lion roar, and it kind of startled me. And I thought, oh, whoa, what's that? And I thought, well, I think I'm in heaven, so it's not going to bother me. So I just kept on going through, and I was trying to get to this golden city that I could see way up in the distance. And so I kept on going around, and then as I kept on going, it seemed like hours for a long time. It seemed like I was going there a long time. After I got there for a little while, I turned around, looked, and I saw these fields of flowers and lots of beautiful scenery. And then I saw this man. It looked like he was sitting on a bank. And I have a grandfather who loves to fish, and we used to love to fish together and everything. And so I thought, well, maybe that's my grandpa Paul sitting over there. And he had his back to him, so I couldn't really see his face. So I jumped off the Golden Road, went
Mm.
down to the fields, and got to the point where I could see my grandfather. And as I got to the point, I realized he was on the other side. There was like a big gully, and I was on one side, and he was on the other side. And I hollered at him, and he turned around and he waved. He never said anything, but he waved, and I recognized him. And he was sitting on a bunch of boulders and rocks, and some of my other relatives were up there too. And I said, I want to try and figure out a way to get over to be with you. I want to go fishing. I asked him if he caught any fish, and he nodded yes, and pulled up a whole big stringer of fish, and that got me really excited. So then I went off the path and said, I'll see you later, because I was trying to figure out a way to get across the river, because obviously I couldn't get across where I was because the river was too wide and too deep. So I started walking on down, and then finally I realized after several hours that it was impossible. I could not get across by myself. That's when I realized, like, what am I doing?
Mm.
I'm trying to cross over here without Jesus. I got to find Jesus. So I had to get back onto the path and get back onto the golden path, back towards the golden city to find Jesus. Is what I was looking for. But then when I finally found Jesus, I went to I got to the Pearly Gates, and the gates were just enormous. I mean, they were just huge, and I couldn't see the tops, couldn't see the bottoms of them, but they were definitely the gates, and they were open to me, which I was kind of surprised, but I was happy. But anyway, so once I walked through the gates, it was empty. The plaza was empty, and I was expecting to see all my other friends there waiting for me, because I thought, you always hear in the Bible that your friends and family are waiting for you, but it was empty, so I was confused, and I was sitting there, and I was going, well, what do I do? And I looked around, I saw paths going every direction, every which way. And I thought, I don't know which way to go. So I sat there and I just started singing songs to myself.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden I saw a light in the distance, and I turned around and looked at it, and it was a bright light. And it was like I was drawn to it. And so I started walking to it, and I got to a certain point to where I stopped because the light was so bright, I couldn't look at it anymore. So I looked down. And when I looked down, a voice said to me, don't be concerned. It is I, Jesus. Jesus. And I said, well, what am I doing here? Um, why am I here? And he said, well, because when I looked down, I saw the feet were not what I thought it was going to be. It was like, you always hear Jesus has bare feet and sandals. Well, his was not bare feet and sandals. And I was confused, and I was going, uh, is this really Jesus? And he said, yeah, don't be concerned, it is I, Jesus, who you think it is. And I went, okay. And I was questioning the whole time because I thought, this isn't right, because I was seeing hooves and not bare feet and sandals. And so I thought, is this Pan or what is this? And and then I asked him, I said, what, not verbally, it was a mind thing, because you talk with him through your mind. And I said, can I see more of you if it is truly Jesus? And he said, yes, you may. He said, but it'll take a minute. And he said, so waited a few minutes, and he said, okay, you can rise and see. And when I rose up, I saw him, and it was truly Jesus, because it was like what you see in the pictures. And so anyhow, after I saw him in that form, he said, I've got a place waiting for you. Come follow me, So I said, okay. So he turned around, went around a corner, went around a curve, and then we went several areas. And then all of a sudden he stops, and I'm looking at him, and I'm realizing that he's sticking his hand in his pocket. He's dressed as a shepherd boy. So I'm sitting there. He sticks his hand in his pocket, and he pulls it out, and he opens this door, and he steps aside, and the door's open, and it's my room. He says to me, your favorite color is blue, right? And I say, yes. I open the door, and I come into this space. It's not really a room. It's just a big open space with all these beautiful blue colors that you've never seen in your entire life. And it's just so amazing, all the colors you see. And I felt good and comfortable in there, but it was empty, and that was all that was there. And I said to him, I said, well, where are my treasures? And he looked at me kind of funny, like, what do you mean? Where are your treasures? Because we all know that Jesus is the true and ultimate treasure, but I was expecting something more. I don't know why. I guess because I always thought of myself as Cinderella, and I expect something more. But he looked at me. He said, well, what are your treasures? And I wasn't expecting him to ask me a question back. But when he did, I had to stop and think for a minute. I thought, oh, he's asking me what my treasures were. And I said, well, my treasures are love. And I said, where are my treasures of love? And he said, he put his finger to his cheek, and like he was thinking for a minute about how to answer. And then he said, well, I have to go back and ask the Father about that. He said, do you want to wait here for a few minutes, and I'll come back and get you? So I said, sure. So I turned around. So when I turned around, when he said, I'll come back and get you, he was started walking out. So I turned around. When I turned around, I saw just a table and chairs just all of a sudden appeared out of nowhere in the room. So I sat down, and for a while, and I sat there, and I prayed and prayed. And finally I fell asleep. I think I actually fell asleep, and because it's so long for him to come back and return. And when I woke up, and he still wasn't there. I was getting concerned. I thought, whoa, what's going on? I thought he said he's going to come back, but he didn't. So I started walking around the room, and then I noticed the door was open. So I thought, oh, the door's open. So maybe he's just, around the corner or outside. I'll go and seek him and see where he's at. So I stuck my head out first to see, if he was around the corner, and he wasn't there. Then I thought, he said to wait there that he'd come back and get me, but he wasn't coming. So I thought, well, I better mind him, because he is Jesus. So I went back and sat back down at the table, and 2 minutes later he appeared, and he said, it's been granted. He said, you can go back, because I had told him earlier that I wanted my treasures of love, and that and then as I was praying in my prayers, I realized that I had not fulfilled my treasures of love, because there was a bunch more things that I wanted to do. I was just 19 years old, and I wanted to have experience all sorts of things. So anyway, he said, yeah, you can go back and experience your treasures. He said, but he said, it's going to take a bit of working. And he said, come follow me, and I'll show you how to get back. So we turned around and went out. But the second time when he came back in to see me, he had changed his clothes. He was no longer in a shepherd's gown or anything like that. He was in kingly attire. I mean, he was all dressed in his regalia and everything, just glowing and beautiful. And he had a crown on his head. And the first time that I saw him, when he came in as a shepherd boy, he had a crown on his head, but it was tilted off to the side. And that's why he told me, he said, I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting to see you so soon. I was playing with my lambs. And that kind of made me feel kind of funny when he told me he was expecting to see me so soon, because I felt like an unexpected guest, you know, be thinking, well, you know, Jesus, you called me, you know, weren't you ready for me? But he wasn't really expecting to see me so soon, because he told me he wasn't expecting to see me so soon. So anyhow, so this time he had a crown on, but it's a different crown than the other one. And it was more set straight up on his head, and it was more glorious looking, had more stones and light was all around it and everything like that. And so I really felt privileged to see all of this and to witness all this. So anyway, I was excited to see what was going to happen next. The next thing that we did, we came across the deal, and I was following behind him, and he comes to a stop, and he stops, and I'm following behind him, and I step up next to him, and I look up, and I realize we're standing on a giant hill. And as I'm standing on this giant hill, I look down, and I see his horse is down there below. One of the ones that I had seen, it was a white one, a beautiful white one, except this time it was all regaled out like he was and everything out. And I looked at him and I said, are you going to go for a ride when we leave? And he said, yes. So I didn't know exactly what I ought to ask him, because, you know, I'm just kind of sitting here thinking, okay. So he tells me to pay attention to what happens next. He's going to tell me a few things, and that I need to pay attention, that we don't have much time. So I said, okay. So he tells me that when he says motions for me to go, I need to go and run down that hill as best I can. Don't look back, and that will be. I'll go through another dimension type of a thing, and that'll be it. So I said, okay. So as I'm sitting here waiting, I'm hearing like noises behind me, and it sounds like pages being turned or something like that. Giant pages being turned. I asked him, I say, what is that noise? And he doesn't answer my question. So I asked him, I said, can I turn around and take a look to see what this noise is? Because it was beginning to get irritating to me. You know how people write things on a piece of paper, and it can make a scratching noise on it, but it was amplified so much it was irritating me. So he said, yes, you can turn and look, but make it brief, because we got just a short time. So I said, okay. So I turned around and I looked, and what I saw was the book of life. It was a giant book opened, and it had there's a pen, like a feather pen, sitting there writing something in this book. And Jesus said something to me, and I turned around and looked at him, so I couldn't really read what was saying in the book. And he was again explaining to me that I need to pay attention to him and not be too worried about what was going on the other side, that, you know, it's going to be a short time. And so we stood there a few more minutes. So I said, can we look one more time? Because I wanted to see what was being written. And he said, sure, but make it brief. Well, when I looked the second time, I saw the initials CS being written in the book of life, and in cursive. And I was looking at it, and I thought, see, you got the C right, but my name is not, there's no S in my name. Because my name at that time, I wasn't married, was Cindy Barry. And so that was confusing to me. And about that time, he said, okay, go. Well, when I went, as I was in my confused state of mind, I started running down this hill. And as I went down, I turned from lightness to darkness, and I was going through this tunnel of lights and stuff. And I was screaming the whole time, thinking, oh my gosh, get my name right. My name's not CS. Who is CS? My name is Cindy Barry. I want to make sure that he got my name right in the book of life. And I was just so upset about it and everything. And then when I came to in the end, I was in a hospital room, tied to a hospital bed.
Yeah, amazing. It's an amazing story. It is all down in Cindy Barry Strobel's amazing book called What Are Your Treasures? My Miraculous Journey Through Heaven. What I discovered about how God works will revolutionize your life. It revolutionized her life after such a profound experience at a young age. This book will revolutionize your life as well once you read all about Cindy's miraculous experiences. Cindy, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.